James White slanders me and our entire Texas Baptist State Convention by suggesting the only thing I do is reflected here on the Sociology 101 podcast, and therefore this is all Texas Baptist cares about.
Hey, Leighton, you can keep cranking out 3. I know this is your job. This is what you do. I mean, I'll be honest. Are Texas Baptists aware of the fact that the person in charge of evangelism for Texas Baptists, as he himself has described, pretty much spends all of his time arguing about Calvinism? It is the Texas Baptist only concern. Okay. Rich verifies that's okay because that is the only concern of Texas Baptists.
James White has been corrected on this numerous times over the last 5 years, and yet continues this ad hominem attack. Allow me to read the article at the top of the Sociology 101 website, which White acknowledged seeing over 4 years ago.
Because Dr. Flowers has created a blog and podcast dedicated to addressing the issue of Calvinism, especially as it is related to the recent rise in popularity within his own denomination, Southern Baptist, he is sometimes accused of being imbalanced or obsessed with this one topic. This is an understandable perception if all you know of Leighton is through his popular Sociology 101 podcast. But this short video below should help you to understand Leighton's motives and his ministry. Here is a list of the ministry websites that Dr. Flowers oversees and or works with on a regular basis: TexasBaptist.org, TexasApologetics.com, ChristianApologetics101.com, SuperSummer.com, and SeeYouAtThePole.org. A listener sent in this satire article inspired by the Babylonian Bee, which demonstrates the fallacious manner in which some of Dr. Flowers' opponents have attempted to dismiss his views. Enjoy. The title: The Plague of One-String Banjos. Satire article submitted by a listener. Thanks to the objective and reasoned discernment of Dr. James White, a popular Christian apologist, the serious epidemic of dangerous banjos with only one string have been brought to the attention of at least a dozen or so people. Of course, we are not talking about actual banjos here. We are talking about theological bloggers who have the audacity to create websites or social media pages that have a limited focus. Rather than including all sorts of random and tedious mundane information about the blogger's everyday life, some rogue theologians have the gall to create pages that cover one particular subject of interest. It is quite appalling that the World Wide Web even allows this type of catastrophic particularity and focus. Dr. White is working tirelessly to stem the tide of one-string banjos by commenting on everything from bike rides to bow ties throughout his day. One faithful White fan expressed his appreciation to the great apologist, saying, quote, "Dr. White, thank you for not just having 1, 2, or 3 strings, but thousands of them for us to read about throughout our otherwise boring lives. You give us a reason to keep coming back." End quote. One particularly notable offender that White has regularly ridiculed for his one-string ways is Dr. Leighton Flowers of Sociology101.com. This theologian turned blogger has a wife and 4 kids. He regularly preaches at a large church, serves as an adjunct professor, and the director of evangelism and apologetics for Texas Baptists, where he oversees literally dozens of evangelistic and apologetic events throughout the year, yet he has the unmitigated gall not to tell us about all of this on his Soteriology blog or social media pages. Oh, and it gets worse. Our investigative reporter learned that just last week, Dr. Flowers rode his bike for over an hour, and he did not even tweet about it. Well, he might have, but we only read his Soteriology 101 Twitter feed, so we assume he did not. When will this madness stop? Flowers' soteriology blog was created to address the major soteriological controversy between Calvinist and Traditionalist in the Southern Baptist Convention, as that was the topic of his doctoral dissertation. But followers have come to expect a certain level of disclosure from theological bloggers. Just what is Dr. Flowers trying to hide? Other obvious one-string offenders are the creators of Monergism.com, CalvinistCorner.com, EffectualGrace.com, ReformationTheology.com, ReformedBaptistBlog.com, and many others. We reached out to Dr. White to get his comments on these one-string banjos, but we still have not yet received a response. We are sure, however, that they will receive a thorough tongue-lashing from the great apologist. After all, we know that Dr. White is nothing if not objective and impartial in his criticism of others.
Because so far I've just been criticizing Leighton, which is not difficult to do, and obviously it's going to be natural for us to do that as we are reformed. But I haven't had to do so by yelling and screaming, "You are stupid in comparison to God. Shut up." This will result in a 4-hour edition of his podcast. Cowardly. I find it cowardly that you will continuously mock. What are those little animals you're not supposed to feed after midnight or something? You know, they're really cute and snuggly, and then you feed them after midnight, and that's what we've got here. So, gremlins, is that what it is? Okay. Very tall gremlins.
Because it's just slightly loony. And I'd never heard of it before. And then nobody else that I know ever had either.
So he is a popeless Catholic when it comes to this issue. Remove the text from being relevant to what you fear. And you need to understand this traditionalist movement is a fear-driven movement. They're seeing what's going on, and they're seeing that they cannot stem this tide. And so they have to come up with something. It's a rearguard action, is what it is. And you don't have the right to tell them otherwise. Sit down, creature. You live for maybe 80 years, and then you die. You are stupid in comparison to God. Shut up and listen to what he says. It just seemed to me he was trying to get an audience by constantly responding to me. Oh, hey, listen to what I had to say about what White said. Oh, it's an absurd objection. And nobody standing before God someday is going to be so stupid as to make it. Because they know their own sin. And in the presence of the holy God, they're not going to be coming up with this kind of absurdity. Those folks are going to be more impressed by story time with Uncle Leighton. A single meaningful Reformed writer, not a single one of the Westminster framers, not a single one of the London Baptist Confession of Faith framers that would have even, every single one of them would look at you and laugh in your face, sir, and you know it. You know it. Don't tell me you don't know it. Leighton has been corrected on this. And again, people will go, hey, if he's been corrected on it, and then he keeps lying about it, doesn't that, the father of all lies? Okay. It does not say much for Leighton. Professor Flowers is a one-string banjo. I mean, he face planted. It was any debate judge, any atheist debate judge, just simply doing the question, answer, dum dum dum, gone, done, over with, right there. I mean, just that clear. He was not handling the text in any meaningful fashion.
I very much support his ministry and hold him in high esteem, as I do with many of my Calvinistic friends. There's no ill will to those who disagree with me on this subject, and I hope everyone understands that we can be brothers and love one another even though we do disagree.
Dr. White continually accuses me of being imbalanced because I do not debate other world religions and theological groups like he does.
Leighton is a really nice guy. I don't like having to disagree with him, but he's imbalanced. I mean, the very opening music of his program is about Calvinism. I'm so glad that we deal with so many other issues rather than just quote unquote Calvinism. But he doesn't. And the result is what it is.
Thank you sincerely for recognizing that I do attempt to treat others nicely. But to call me imbalanced because I don't debate other issues but instead have given my entire adult life as an evangelist just isn't nice, Dr. White. In fact, one might conclude that those who debate too much without evangelizing more could become imbalanced too. And by the way, we agree, starting some of our shows with songs written to promote our soteriological perspective does reveal our bias. James White, however, does not resort to this type of thing. Oh, or does he?
Hear people that are Calvinists harp on this. God sovereign, God sovereign, God sovereign, sovereign, sovereign. They just keep repeating it, and they repeat it so much you start to think it's a biblical truth.
Who taught you how to do this stuff?
You, all right? I learned it by watching you.
This once again reveals James White's double standard when dealing with provisionism, or what some call Southern Baptist traditionalism. Must we remind everyone that James White initiated our first interaction by challenging me to a debate over 5 years ago. And he initiated this latest discourse by producing daily multi-hour broadcasts confronting Ken Wilson's work and a 2-year-old interview on Sociology 101. In fact, count the number of hours Dr. White has broadcasted about us and compare it to the number of hours we have produced in response. Then tell us he doesn't have a double standard.